The wind howled across the plains like a wounded animal, dragging dust and old regrets through. The broken fences of the Black Hollow Ranch. The rancher stood still beneath the lantern light, his shadow long and jagged against the barn wall. He had lived alone too long, enough for silence to become a language and loneliness a habit. When the giant bride was brought to him, wrapped in fear and rumors, even the land seemed to hold its breath. She was taller than any woman he had known, her presence filling the doorway. Her shoulders bowed not from weakness, but from years of being told. She was too much, too big, too strange, too frightening to be loved. Her hands trembled as she clutched the fabric of her heavy dress, knuckles white, eyes darting like a trapped animal. When she spoke, her voice cracked, barely louder than the wind outside. "Please, don't unzip my clothes." The words weren't about fabric. They were about everything she had endured. Every auction block stare, every cruel whisper, every man who had looked at her like a curiosity instead of a human being. The rancher heard that, even if he didn't yet understand it. He stepped closer, not to touch her, but to stand where she could see him clearly. His hands stayed visible. His voice stayed calm. He told her she was safe here, though safety was a fragile promise on a land that broke men and women alike. He told her no one would force her, though even he wasn't sure what he would do if fear pushed him to become someone he hated. The lantern flickered, casting her enormous shadow across the walls, and she flinched at her own reflection. As the night deepened, tension thickened the air, not desire, but uncertainty. The rancher had ordered her marriage out of desperation, not cruelty. He needed help. He needed companionship. But standing before her now, he realized he also needed to be better than the men who had come before him. When he reached toward the zipper of her coat, it was only to remove the cold from her shoulders, but she recoiled, breath hitching, terror flooding her eyes. He froze instantly. That moment changed everything. He lowered his hand and stepped back, swallowing the hard truth that power could destroy or protect, and the choice was always his. That night, no clothes were unzipped, no lines were crossed. Instead, something far rarer was born in the silence between them: restraint. If this story is pulling you in, don't forget to subscribe to Wild West Dairies, where untold frontier stories of love, pain, and redemption come alive. Morning arrived pale and uncertain, just like hope. The giant bride awoke on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, untouched but exhausted from a lifetime of fear. She half expected to be alone again, abandoned like always. Instead, she smelled coffee and heard the steady rhythm of boots moving with purpose, not menace. The rancher never mentioned the night. He handed her a mug with both hands, like an offering, not a claim. He spoke of the land, of fences that needed mending, of horses that trusted only patience. Slowly, she realized he was talking about himself without saying so. Days passed. Work replaced fear. Routine replaced panic. He never reached for her without asking, never looked at her like she was something to conquer. When her dress snagged on a nail and tore, she panicked, shaking, apologizing through tears she couldn't control. He knelt in the dirt, fixing the tear instead of staring at her skin, and told her broken things weren't ruined, just unfinished. That was the moment she began to believe him. When she finally stood before him one evening, shoulders squared, eyes steady, and whispered that she wasn't afraid anymore, he understood what she was offering. Still, he waited, because love wasn't about unzipping clothes, it was about unzipping fear. Slowly, carefully, with consent and trust. The story didn't end with passion. It ended with something stronger: choice. And on the wide, unforgiving plains of the Wild West, that choice was everything. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe to Wild West Dairies and ride with us into the untamed heart of human emotion.